I'm Nicole and I'm one of the founding members of Ferret Owners Australia, and today we're going to speak to Phaedra. She is one of our initial long-time members and she's a bit of a guru when it comes to ferret knowledge. And recently we've had some members that have had issues with botulism with their ferrets, and they've actually lost their ferrets. So Phaedra experienced this quite a few years back, and she's going to share her experiences with us about what happened, what we can do to prevent it, and what botulism actually is. So thank you, Phaedra, for joining us this afternoon. We're actually going to have a speak about botulism with ferrets because it's been an issue in the ferret owners group lately. But what I thought we'd start with is a little bit about you. So if you can tell us a little bit about your history with ferrets, how long have you owned them?
Myself officially coming up for 17 years. That's all aspects of me just taking care of them. My grandparents and both sides of the family had them. My best friend growing up had them, and I got to, I guess, experience them through second-hand interactions like that.
How many have you got now?
I've got 57.
So do you have any particular veterinary knowledge?
Veterinary nursing, veterinary science.
So we're here to talk about botulism because it's been a topic in the group. We've actually had some members that say that their vets have actually clarified that that's been an issue and their ferrets have passed away. You can tell us, how did you first know that there was something wrong with your ferrets when this happened?
2014. And basically I went in the afternoon after I'd been cleaning and scrubbing. I had accidentally flooded their enclosure. And of course the water's a backwash. So we had all this set up to drain underground into a septic system sort of setup. Even though the ferrets hadn't played in the water too much, so I'm going with a bit of spray. And I just noticed some of them were very subdued. I noticed that some of my especially excitable girls were very subdued and just not themselves. I initially monitored them for about 15 minutes before I went, nah, I've got to call the vet. I need to get them seen because something is really off. And basically, I noticed that their pupils are dilated. It can be the first sign of toxicity in any case of poisoning is dilated pupils.
Yep. How quickly did the condition progress? Once you said, okay, this isn't normal and I'm going to call the vet, how fast did it progress and what happened?
I probably noticed symptoms about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was in the vet by 6. By this stage, they started to drool and they were having hind end weakness. Now, a really, really, really defining factor of botulism is they have ascending paralysis. So they have paralysis that starts in the back end and works its way forward. And at this rate, their heart rates had also started to go down and their body temperatures started to crash because that's something else botulism does. It causes depression of the heart rate and their core temperature will start to drop. Anyways, they had started to drool, so we're talking here, I said this is an hour. So we've gone from just dilated pupils and just being a little bit flat to we're having
hour.
Weakness. We're having drooling, not proficient, but just enough that they were dribbling a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's fast. An hour different. I think with a lot of things, when we notice things with our animals, usually it's not that fast. So that's a quick progression.
In botulism cases, quite often the females crash first because they're smaller, they're more affected by the toxin, and males are a bit later on and they take a little bit longer just because of the increase in size. Because botulism doesn't like oxygen. It will not thrive in dry, well aerated environments. Yep. And by 12 o'clock that night, the initial 4 females that I took in were dead.
Gosh.
They were gone. So from 5 to 12, not very long, not big hours at all. That's what, 7 hours, they were gone.
And did you think it was botulism at that stage?
Someone else actually mentioned it to me because it was something that killed a bunch of their working dogs many, many years ago. But I then had more ferrets getting sick.
What did you do next? What sort of tests did they do to confirm a diagnosis?
I ended up losing 8 ferrets. I had 12 in total get sick, and suddenly I had the last 3 ferrets that got sick. Suddenly they're no longer paralysed, they are recovering. They resumed eating, they were able to swallow again. They were not fading before our eyes in a matter of a few hours.
So there were definite improvements.
Now, after a few days, I was able to take the 3 survivors home. And They lived for years. They were 10 and 11 and 9 when they all finally passed away.
We're starting to hear about this now through the group, and my guess is some people assume, some people are actually getting a diagnosis, but let's work through nowadays, why is this happening, and what are the most common sources of botulism exposure for pet ferrets in someone's home?
Yeah, for most people it'll be fly contact. So we all know ferrets stash meat, stash food. Depending on where they stash them, they can be really harmless or can be really, really bad. Flies and maggots, they carry the bacteria. Most botulism doesn't care so much for animal products, like rich, moisture decaying plant materials. For most people from their meat stashes, particularly if they're in the house, I had a ferret, I didn't even know she was doing this, and she somehow, I still don't know how, had a stash in behind our TV wall unit.
We've all been there. It's the grossest thing ever. But, we've all been there. I definitely know, and I've got 2 rooms, and I definitely know that I have found what I call fly babies in there before today. And it's the grossest thing ever. It really is. And you're just like, ferrets. You've told us about the early signs. If someone started to see their ferret, changing and dilated pupils, losing, use of their back end, what should they do?
Go to the vet, start very intensive supportive treatment. Aggressive supportive treatment is your most likely chance.
Which is what? If they're at a vet that doesn't really know, what would they be suggesting that they should be doing for their ferret?
Or just oxygen in general, and fluids, because they're going to have to flush the toxins out. Antibiotics are usually prescribed because if they've got live bacteria that's colonized their stomach, they'll never purge the toxin as the bacteria dies off. So antibiotics kill the bacteria, that way you just get 1 dose of the toxin, and aggressive fluid therapy, so either via IV or sub-Q fluids under the skin. Some vets will add in medications to support the kidneys. Some will add in anti-paralytics to try and reverse the paralysis that works through the body. And basically, within 12 hours, it's do or die.
I think what we're seeing with a lot of new owners, because obviously if they're not there, they're setting up systems within outside cages. So that might be tunnels and things like that, where food could go missing that you wouldn't know because it's buried in a couple of meters of tunnel inside too.
Ferrets are a small carnivore. They would not eat every single day. They certainly wouldn't eat multiple meals every single day. It is not a bad idea, particularly over summer when maggots and flies are more prevalent. If you ration your ferrets meals, even if you just fed them of an evening, so once a day feeding, leave enough food to eat over the course of a few hours. And first thing in the morning, come in, clean up anything. Don't feed them outside of their cage. Always feed them inside of the cage.
So I've got 2 bedrooms set up. And yes, I try and feed at night time, and if there's nothing left in the morning, then you try and leave them longer. But a ferret that's hungry is less likely to stash, right?
Yeah, a hungry ferret is less likely to stash. Hot weather, ferrets are less inclined to eat of a daytime. So if you've got food available all the time, it'll just sit there and go bad anyway. This is something where dry food does have its benefits in the sense that it doesn't have moisture issues. It's not prone to attract flies or maggots. I won't endorse kibble or cat foods or anything like that, but if you got something like ZWP, Frontier Pets, Eureka, stuff like that. Yes, it's expensive, but put a quarter of a cup out if you really feel they need to have something to nibble on over the daytime, because it's just there for snacking. It's not there for the meal.
Yeah. What other advice can you give to ferret owners these days? So, make sure your ferrets are hungry, feed once a day, make sure everything's clean, remove any food that's left the next morning. Let's go back over and recap now. So, and for owning ferrets as a pet now, know your ferret really well, be aware of any changes,
Any signs of toxins, that's usually your first go-to. That's a defining factor between a toxin versus just a stomach bug, for example.
Yep.
And ticks and snake bites can cause pupil dilation.
Yep.
Know what a healthy body temperature is for your ferrets, because again, botulism is pretty distinct and it causes decreasing body temp.
And we're looking for back-end loss of movement, which is different to some other diseases. We're tying all the things in together.
The front end will still be quite mobile forwards, and they'll start to feel cold, but they'll physically feel cold to the touch.
Yep.
The reality of it is most people are going to be really lucky to never experience botulism. It's not an everyday thing. It is something to be aware of, something to try and take measures to prevent where it's a risk.
Just be vigilant.
Yeah, it's a bit of common sense. Like if you know they're stashing food and they're potentially eating from that stash, find the stash, remove it, clean it up, and just try and prevent them doing that. That is, as I said, probably the most common source. There's a big thing about letting them have natural play and stuff. You can get some nasty strains of botulism from compost. So long as it's a well-aerated garden bed, stuff like that, you're fine.